Well, to talk to us about International Environment Day, we can welcome France 24's Valérie Dekimpe on the set. Valérie, thank you very much for being with us. As we've mentioned, this year's World Environment Day is devoted to the theme of biodiversity. The current pandemic has put the spotlight on the loss of biodiversity globally and its link, of course, to COVID-19. What exactly do we know about that?
Sure. I mean, there's now a broad consensus among the scientific community that the destruction of the environment, the loss of biodiversity, and the emergence of infectious diseases like COVID-19 are in fact closely interconnected. So what exactly do we know about that? Well, scientists don't have a definitive answer yet on the origins of the virus of COVID-19, but many are blaming it on the overexploitation of our planet. So whether it's deforestation, whether it's intensive farming and wildlife trade, all those elements are contributing to the emergence of diseases like COVID-19. Scientists believe that all these activities that I just mentioned before have created the perfect conditions for viruses to spill over from animals to humans. So we know that about 75% of infectious diseases come from animals. And we also know, for example, and this according to a new report that was just released on Wednesday by FAIR, a nonprofit organization, found that more than 70% of the biggest meat, fish, and dairy producers were in danger of fostering a new pandemic, a new animal-borne disease, like we've seen Ebola, for example, or swine flu, or perhaps COVID-19. So this is something that scientists and world leaders will be discussing today at this year's online event hosted by the UN for World Environment Day, and stressing the fact that we need to protect biodiversity, not just for the sake of it, but also because our health depends on it.
And of course, Valérie, during the lockdown period, which spanned more or less a little over 2 months for most countries in the world, we saw that the environment benefited massively from, industries not going and things like that. But is there a risk now that as we get back to normality, that the economic concerns are going to once again take over from environmental concerns?
It certainly feels that way. I would say that the environment is no longer the number one priority for governments. And questions are being asked, for example, when it comes to recovery plans. Are they compatible with climate plans, with very ambitious climate plans, or will the environment pay the price? So China, for example, has said that there will not be a GDP growth target this year. And for climate observers, this means that China will not necessarily use the traditional strategy of investing in highly polluting industries or in dirty energy. So that's positive, but again, there's no clear emphasis on a green plan, for example. And in the meantime, we do know that air pollution in China has gone back to pre-pandemic levels during the lockdown. We know that we saw clearer skies, cleaner air, but now, as you can see, that's changing pretty quickly, and you can see that we are going back to business as usual. And finally, Europe, perhaps things are more promising there. Out of the 750 billion euros the EU has allocated for a coronavirus recovery fund, well, 25% of that will be set aside for climate plans. But then, we are getting mixed signals. For example, in Germany, Lufthansa received a 9 billion euro bailout, and without having to lower its carbon emissions, something that environmentalists had been asking for example.
France 24's Valérie Dekimpe, thank you very much for that analysis on the importance of